As you may be aware, there's a number of schemes available now for first-time buyers and for home movers. This week we're going to concentrate on the shared ownership scheme. I'm going to tell you how it all works and how it could benefit you. Welcome to Mortgage Monday. So you may have heard of the shared ownership scheme, but you may not fully understand how it all works and how it could potentially benefit you. So the shared ownership scheme, firstly and foremost, it is available for first-time buyers, but also it's available for home movers as well. Bear in mind, it can be the only property that you do own if you do go down the shared ownership route though. So the main thing with the shared ownership property is you own part of the property and a housing association owns the other part of the property. So the most traditional way this happens is that you will own 50% share of the property, for example, and the housing association will own the other 50%. So the way it works is you have a mortgage on your share of the property and you pay rent to the housing association on their share of the property. So for example, if you have a property that's worth £200,000 on the open market, you may be eligible to buy a 50% share of that property. So in effect, you'll own 100 grand of that property. When you look at a shared ownership property, you then only need a deposit for your share of the property. So if we use the £100,000 example, rather than needing a deposit on the full £200,000, you only need it on the £100,000. So in effect, a deposit as little as 5% potentially. If you can get a 5% deposit together for your share, it will open up the doors massively, and there are now over 10 lenders in the market that can offer this facility. So the benefit of this is that you potentially only need a mortgage of £95,000 if your share is £100,000. So once you own a shared ownership property, and let's say for example you do own the 50% share of the property, what you can also then do as time goes on is what is called staircasing. So staircasing is increasing your share in that property, usually in increments of 10% or 20% up until you own 100% of that property. So it's a good way to build up and eventually own the property yourself. If you are in a position to staircase, then you will own more of the property. The rental element for the housing association, that will come down in line with that. So let's look at some eligibility for the shared ownership scheme. So firstly, you need to be at least 18 years of age. If you're looking to buy and live outside of London, then there needs to be a household income of under £80,000. If you are in London, there needs to be a household income under £90,000. If you go down the shared ownership route, it can be the only property that you do own. So for first time buyers, that's not an issue. If you're looking to move house, you would need to sell your current property and the shared ownership be the only one that you own. Finally, you need to have a good credit rating as well. So you've still got to go through the usual background checks for mortgages. The housing association will do an affordability check as well. So just make sure your credit is all in order. So firstly, the rental element that you pay to the housing association is always under the market value. So you'll never pay what the going rate is on the rental side of things. When you look at a shared ownership property, the minimum you could actually purchase is just 25%, and that could be really useful to keep your deposit low, low mortgage, and pay rent on the rest. So as I mentioned earlier, the deposit of the property needs to be on your share only, and it can be as little as just 5% of your share. What this ultimately means is you are able to potentially get on the housing ladder with a lower deposit and even a lower income as well. What you've also got the option to do as well is actually defer the stamp duty payable until you increase your share in the property. So it's a good way again just to keep costs down when you're first buying a property. So it just shows shared ownership, it can be a great route to get onto the property ladder, and if you think it may benefit you, if you've got any questions, if you'd like any further information about this, comment below, you can inbox me. And remember, you can follow me on LinkedIn for more tips, you can subscribe to YouTube, and I'll see you next week for Mortgage Monday.